Have you ever noticed how easily we become transfixed by screens, drawn into endless streams of content that somehow never quite satisfies us? There's something happening to human consciousness right now that goes deeper than distraction. We're witnessing entire populations being lulled into a kind of collective trance, mistaking entertainment for reality and confusing the theater of modern media for authentic experience. I'm Mark Roach. Welcome to Transcendent, my platform to help you be authentic. And if you like to find your uniqueness and your essence, beware my perspective may be a little uncomfortable for some. It was formed from a twisted journey around the world, crossing a wide spectrum of experiences, highs and lows as most would define them. This channel is all about inspiring common people to find their power and place their uniqueness in their own lives. My life has been a research lab. I've studied mystics and healers, started a couple of oil companies, walked away from a path to the NFL when I realized I could not conform to a materialistic and violent lifestyle. I've raised well over $1 billion for startups, been in the middle of $10 billion of transactions, led 5,000 to 10,000 professionals, geology, engineering, and mentored them in business. Also, been involved in mentoring others as well as being mentored in athletics by people who are rather rich and famous. I've also held a long-term relationship in my personal life and raised 8 children. Now, I'm hoping here to ease the way for others who may deal with complex PTSD or have a calling to pursue their uniqueness or their artistry or their spiritual life. Or maybe you have a friend or loved one in such a place that you're trying to empathize with and understand and support. So what I've discovered from my travels from the bottom to the top in the US and across various cultures throughout the world is this. Humans at this point in time consist of masses being entertained through theater portrayed across artificial mediums, which they are deeply influenced and entertained, possibly hypnotized away from the possibility of experiencing their own independent reality. We become so mesmerized by the shows that we've forgotten who we are, that we're the ones meant to be living our own lives. The current state of this theater is emboldened with a binary that is highly attractive to those who are suggestible, perhaps naive, and who believe that the spiritual and physical are blended in a morality that favors dominance and violence. Everything becomes either this or that, good or evil, us versus them. This kind of thinking makes violence inevitable because, as one psychological teacher observed, all violence is due to a lack of consciousness. If you can see another as you see yourself, you will never be violent towards him or her. You will notice that you are only violent when you think that you are not like the other person, that you're not such a brute or a beast or a liar and so on. This one-sidedness makes violence. So the mystic masters throughout history have held something different. They understand that the spiritual and physical are separate worlds, and they're waiting patiently for the evolution of consciousness to rise to higher states that are possible for mankind, not necessarily for the masses, but for individuals in this moment, and possibly at some point in time for the greater collective. But here's what most people don't understand about our current situation. A teacher named Maurice Nicol, who spent decades studying human consciousness, made a profound observation. Quote, natural man, is based in violence, and that is why he conducts certain planetary influences in a particular way that produces war. The planetary influences are one thing, neither good nor evil. It is man's inner state that translates them into good or evil. He must overcome violence in himself. This violence isn't just physical, it's psychological, emotional, and mental. All violence, and I quote here, has roots in negative emotion. The more negative you are, the less you understand, and the more violent you tend to be." End quote. And here's part of the disturbing part about our modern entertainment culture. It feeds on this negativity. It amplifies it, dramatizes it, glorifies it, and we make celebrities out of it. It makes it seem normal and even desirable. Nicol understood something crucial about war and conflict that applies directly to our current media landscape. War in this system is said to be caused by extraterrestrial influences, not by people. It is said that planetary influences create war on Earth, but it adds that these influences create war on sleeping humanity, because man is so deeply asleep that these influences act on him in a particular way. If he were awake, they would act on him in another way. We are sleeping humanity. The endless scroll of social media, the binge watching, the constant stimulation, the binary political theater that dominates our screens, all of these keep us in a trance-like state where we mistake reaction for consciousness, where we confuse being entertained with being awake. Everything based on violence can only create violence. There is not a single school of real teaching that teaches violence. War exists because man is based on violence. Yet our entertainment glorifies it, our politics weaponize it, and our social media algorithms amplify it. We're caught in what Nicol called the mechanical nature of human existence. Everything happens in a world of sleeping people. Everything that takes place in only the way that it can. Millions kill each other, suffer incredible misery, and so on, because they cannot help it. And it all leads nowhere, and it can lead nowhere. But there is hope, and it all lies in understanding the patterns that keep us trapped. Nicol observed that at the other end of the scale, there are the little cycles of events that form an ordinary man's private life, which turn like small wheels, repeating themselves endlessly. That is, in the same way, more or less, unless the man begins to struggle with himself and change himself. These patterns exist not just in our personal lives, but in our collective consciousness. We scroll through the same types of content, get triggered by the same types of posts, engage in the same arguments, feel the same frustrations day after day. Why? Because your level of being attracts your life. If your being remains unaltered, everything else will remain the same. The binary thinking that dominates our media consumption is particularly dangerous because it prevents the kind of nuanced understanding that real consciousness requires. When everything becomes black or white, right or wrong, our side versus their side, we lose the ability to see the complexity that exists in all human situations. This creates the perfect environment for manipulation because, as research shows, people in simplified mental states are more suggestible, more easily controlled. But here's what the mystic masters have always known. There's a way out of this cycle. If everyone did this, planetary influences acting on man would not so easily bring mankind to war. People could then resist war. If a man begins to deal with the small cycle of recurring events in his personal life more consciously and does not identify with some of them, he begins to be able to transform his life on a small scale. The transformation begins with recognizing what we have in choice. We don't have to remain hypnotized by the endless stream of artificial entertainment. We don't have to accept the binary thinking that reduces complex human experience to simple categories. We can develop what Nicol called a different quality of consciousness. One meaning of rebirth is to be born beyond violence, to become conscious in thinking and feeling on a level beyond violence. A fully conscious man cannot be violent. This doesn't mean becoming passive. It means developing the kind of awareness that can see through the theater, that can distinguish between authentic experience and manufactured entertainment. The path requires understanding something that most people never realize. Violence is the antithesis of understanding. All violence has its roots in not understanding another. The more negative you are, the less you understand, and the more violent you tend to be. Understanding is a positive thing. So negative emotion cannot create understanding, but only misunderstanding. Our current media environment thrives on negative emotion, on outrage, on fear, on division. It's designed to keep us in reactive states where understanding becomes impossible. Breaking free requires what Nicol called inner work. The meaning of the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and men of violence take it by force is this. It means violence on oneself. Not to act with violence is violence on oneself. A man, in observing himself and finally realizing where he is violent, must do violence to himself to overcome his violence. The inner violence is the discipline required to turn off the screen, to step away from the endless entertainment, to face the discomfort of our own minds without distraction. It's recognizing that every one of you, whether man or woman, has a violent person deeper down. The approach to this person is through becoming a bit negative. You begin to feel yourself unfairly treated, and who does not? And from that moment, you're on a road in your psychological country that leads down to the slums of violence. So the work of consciousness is internal. The work is not mainly about outer life, but about inner life. And here, sincerity and valuation are necessary. It is how we treat people internally, invisibly, in mind and feeling that counts. You have to reach a stage in which when you are alone, everyone you know, whether you dislike them or otherwise, can pass through without being snipped or butchered. The inner transformation is what separates those who remain hypnotized by the collective theater from those who begin to wake up to their own authentic reality. As Nicol noted, to practice non-identifying can lead somewhere. To serve nature leads nowhere. Everything a man does in regard to working on himself has no relation to the rewards of outer life. Only you know what you do in this respect. So the mystic masters understood that conscious evolution happens individually first, then collectively. They're not waiting for the masses to wake up at all or all at once. They're working with individuals who are ready to step out of the trance, to experience their own reality rather than the manufactured one served up by our entertainment culture. The choice is always ours. We can remain audience members in someone else's theater, reacting to binary narratives designed to keep us sleeping and suggestible. Or we can begin the difficult but liberating work of developing our own consciousness, our own understanding, our own authentic relationship with reality. The evolution of human consciousness has always depended on individuals who were willing to break free from the collective trance of their time. Today, that trance is delivered through artificial mediums that seem more real than reality itself. But the principles remain the same. Wake up. Think for yourself. Develop understanding instead of reaction. Choose consciousness over entertainment. Get empathetic. I'm Mark Roach, wishing you all the best.